francophones, whatever language or dialect that they used. With that being said, I'd also like to go back to the fact that this motion has been brought to this council. That debate on whether it's right, wrong, yes, no, should not be held at this council table because, Mr. Mayor, we have no input to how the Cornwall Community Hospital functions. That is operated under the LHINs. Whether they are under an agreement with the LHIN, I don't really know, nor did I investigate. And I do believe that that debate maybe should be here, but not at this table. It should be at the Cornwall Community Hospital board level. The union, they are unionized, the employees. They have representation from their unions that should they have any sort of a feeling that this is not fair, that is where it should be debated, not at this table. Healthcare is for everybody in the city of Cornwall, regardless of the language that they speak. And I'm sure, and I have not heard once, that there has been a language issue there. Maybe it's because they have a pulse. I don't know, because I'm not involved in making those decisions. Mr. Mayor, the discussion, I don't know how this council can support it because we're not involved in it. And if anything else, it will further divide the community. The employees have representation through their union. They have an opportunity to discuss policies that they feel are discriminatory. There are other avenues. This is not the table to do it. That being said, Mr. Mayor and council members, I have a comment, but I do believe it has no place at this council table. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, when I looked at the resolution, it was going in consent. I thought was the way to do it. But I just looked at one of their therefores. It says that, therefore, Council of the Township of South Stormont urges the Cornwall Community Hospital to review its policy. My understanding in discussions with the board members at the time, or one board member in particular, and he said the ministry came down and said, thou shalt apply the French Language Services Act this way if you want funding. So they followed the directive from the province. And it's regardless of what government it is, because they all agree with the French Language Service Act. My personal opinion is that we have nothing, as Councillor O'Shaughnessy said, we have nothing to do with it, but I believe that the Mayor of South Stormont is taking the appropriate action, meeting with the minister in the good roads, and trying to get some kind of confirmation of what the act actually says. Because in reading the act, and unless I read it wrong, which I don't normally make mistakes reading legislation, I see it as the intent is to ensure that French services are available in the community hospital, but I think the way it's being applied is wrong, but that's a decision that's reached in I don't make statements for that. I do it because I believe that the application of the act is in error, and I believe that meetings with the Minister of Francophone Affairs will clarify that and maybe bring a resolution to a community that gets along great, whether you're English or French. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I did have, through you, Mr. Mayor, I did have a discussion with one of the board members. One of the things that bothered me the most, if I was to support what South Stormont was doing, was one issue in particular stood out, and that's the MRI. We stopped the funding to the hospital, and the MRI suffers for it. There are 3,000 people, residents of South SD&G, that go to Ottawa and Kingston to get MRIs when they should be getting them here. We need to support what Cornwall did, and that's put money in there so that we get the equipment that we need to take care of our people here. And I agree with what Councillor O'Shaughnessy said.
Thank you, Your Worship. Il y a une loi en Ontario qui dit spécifiquement que les services bilingues doivent être en place dans nos hôpitaux. There's a law in Ontario that states that the services should be offered, and it's quite open and direct I think the hospital did a good job of trying to inform the public by, I think, buying half pages in most newspapers on a number of occasions. En français puis en anglais. I think the issue, as my colleague, Councillor O'Shaughnessy, stated, is not an issue for us to debate at this point in here. It's a health issue. We need to make sure that the services are provided to everybody in this community. There's a law that says that those services have to be provided in the language of choice of the individuals that need the service. If there are issues with the law, let the people who have issues with the law make their presentations to the right area. And I think by being out in the newspapers and making that kind of an approach, one that divides the community, is not the right approach to make. If there's issues to be presented to anybody, we have a member of provincial parliament that has come out with a statement that I'm not sure what it says, but it does stipulate that somehow there's a law that requires the government to provide the services in both official languages. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a dead issue. Si je vais à l'hôpital, je veux que ça soit dans le langage de mon choix. And if I go to the hospital, and I have been there, I've been served in both official languages, and I hope we continue to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to say that I agree with my colleagues that this argument really has no place at this table. It's not our affair. And I think that even though it's presented to us as a motion to support funding, continued funding to the hospital, it really is, there is a subtext there. We all recognize it's about language. And I would welcome it then in this respect to say that even though it's not about language, it gives us an opportunity to affirm the value and respect we have for different languages and diversity in our community. So I take that opportunity, and I think our cultural diversity is our value as a community, and you can't support diversity without giving it support. So I affirm the support that the province of Ontario gives our hospital through the French Languages Services Act, and pledge our support to each other.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I would just like to say that this weekend, as I was going over the council package and trying to do the homework that I needed to do, and for tonight's meeting, I looked and I thought, you know, for myself, growing up, I grew up with my dad who could hardly speak English, and my mom who could not speak French. So I felt like I was right in the middle of it, and you know, both languages are very near and dear to my heart. So I looked at it that we were facing two issues here. One was, do we hold back funding, which would be wrong in my case, so I wouldn't support holding back funding because the hospital is for everyone. And the other thing is, I look and say, so now we're looking at a hiring policy that people don't agree with in the hospital, and we do give money to other organizations or other agencies in Cornwall that we don't look into their hiring policy. So I agree with most of my colleagues here tonight, is that I don't believe that this debate needs to be here, but I wish the people who are trying to make their case heard. I applaud you for your demonstration and your passion and your believing that something is not right, and I wish you all the luck, and again, healthcare is for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. And this evening, this discussion centers around will we or will we not withhold our funding. And of course, we won't withhold our funding. We made a commitment to the community hospital, and we're going to stand by our commitment and make sure the funds are delivered and delivered on time. And we talk about, just so happens my wife's a nurse, and my wife's first language is French. She does speak English. I've been accused of speaking neither one of Canada's official languages. But I have been patient at the hotel and at the General, and I've always found the services there in both languages to be excellent. So I have no hesitation in turning down the request from Sunstone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also, first of all, I agree with less than some of the comments that it's not at this table. It should be discussed. It should be at the other table. And this is the reason why when somebody called me last week at home, asking me as a francophone what I thought, as I said, I'm not in any agreement to hold back any fund. The commitment is there, and the community needs to make sure that they have the equipment needed to keep the people healthy. I think also, my comment to her at the time was, we're there, that this French language thing is there to make sure that the French people can be served in their language. And does that mean advanced French? As a Francophone, I don't think so. I think intermediate French would be good as long as you can understand. And I think that was my own personal comment. It's nothing to do with council. I don't think it should be dealt around here. And this is the reason why I made the, but I think that the point of it all is to make sure the Francophone and Anglophone community and all others are well served in their language, both official language. And that's my thinking behind it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and of course, there's a pretty strong consensus around this table at this point that I think this isn't the forum to do this, but we can offer our 2 cents, or 8.4 million as it be, and we can give suggestions, but we can't demand. But with that said, it's amazing what 3 words, mandatory versus an asset, can do to a community. Talk about sparking a fire. 3 words. And I give credit to those that are sticking with this, but again, this is a health issue, and it's an ability to provide the services required, whatever language. And kudos to Councillor O'Shaughnessy for bringing this discussion to the fore, and good luck to those wishing to be heard. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
I've had a lot of conversations over the last few weeks, we all have, about our community hospital. I've talked to friends and colleagues and Anglophones and Francophones and strangers. And I needed to hear from others because, of course, I had my own reactions, as we all did, to this. The 3 things became very clear to me. The issue of language in our community is a complicated one. There are facts and figures, but there are also personal experiences. There are also strong feelings. And that has to be acknowledged. There's a lot of history. And I realize that at the end of the day, no one really ever wins this debate. In fact, we all lose if we don't stand united on issues. And it's very heartening tonight to see the consensus around this table. I remember when the amalgamation of the 2 hospitals took place some years ago. I think those of us outside of the hospital setting don't fully realize how difficult that was. How delicate an operation it was to amalgamate those 2 hospitals with different cultures, with different views, with different staff. And amazingly, during that whole process, people continued to have quality health care. We did it. The second thing that's clear to me is the fact that we have Anglophones and Francophones in this community is a strength. It's hard. We debate, we argue, we have tensions, but we live through that, and still we're here. It makes us stronger. It makes us better able to adapt to adversity, to challenges. At the end of the day, we know that we have a responsibility to one another. So we're very fortunate in this community. Most days, of most weeks, of most years, we get along really well, peacefully and productively. You know, I attended the county's meeting last week, to watch their debate on this issue. And again, I was encouraged by the differing views and the feelings and the arguments that took place, but all respectfully. And at the end of the day, people spoke eloquently and supported the funding of our hospital. Yes, the hospital is a workplace, a significant one, but it's more than just a workplace. It's a special place, a place of healing, where at its heart are patients and families. We need to talk about the patients and families. Il est temps pour nous d'être conscients de la place spéciale de notre hôpital. Il est temps pour nous d'appuyer l'hôpital, d'être pleinement conscients que c'est important qu'on appuie entièrement notre hôpital communautaire. The third thing that's clear to me is that the hospital staff are proud of the work that they do. Very proud, and they should be. It's quality care that is given every day at the hospital, and that's clear. The hospital and the province have the jurisdiction to decide how that health care is to be provided. City Council decides if we continue to fund our hospital, which is at the center of healthcare and economic development and all things good in this community. So I vote to continue the support, extraordinary financial support that we give to the hospital.
If I might just say a few words. I'm very proud of the council members in each of your interventions, showing what is really essential for linguistic communities, cultural communities, diverse communities, to form a community like ours, an inclusive community, by way of demonstrating respect, by way of demonstrating tolerance, having an open mind to hear the views of others sometimes when they're not exactly those that we might otherwise share. And while this debate was not one of our choosing, coming from a neighboring municipality for its own reasons, it's a proud moment for council to stand together, stand behind our community hospital, and to be behind all our residents when it comes to health care, and seeing that we accept that in a country with 2 official languages, that everyone, particularly in our community, it's not a small minority, it's a very imposing, dynamic minority, that is a rich part of our history. We've been together close to 240 years, if not a little bit more. I forget, it's just under 240, just a little over 240. And the essence of this community has been this fabric of French and English in all matters, in education, in healthcare, in social areas, industry. And when we go to sell our community, to market our community, never underestimate how important it is, how valuable it is that we have the institutions that can provide, whether it's education or healthcare and other services, in both French and English. It is really, truly has been an asset. We have to work at it, as we are today. And we have to continue to demonstrate that passion, that commitment to serving one another and seeing that each other's rights are protected and adhered to. And so, finally, I'm very proud of the residents who came here this evening, whatever the individual you might be, for showing your passion, your commitment, and for showing the respect for each other in our chamber this evening. So thank you for attending our deliberations.